Hey there, everybody. Ursula here. It was another scorcher today, and not much got done and hasn't been done. I haven't caught up yet from the work. I'm behind from vacation, so it's going to be a messy garden today, but I'm still going to take a video just to show you guys what's going on. We've got a lot of things that the bees are enjoying. We have everything from white lavender. The current favorite is lamb's ear. This needs to be thinned. But the bees are enjoying it tremendously. And you can see we have bee balm or monarda in the back, some snapdragons, and this definitely needs to be thinned. The barberry bushes need to be trimmed. We've got plenty of borage, and all the honeybees are just really enjoying that. This is St. John's wort, and I've already taken enough cuttings to do oil for this year. Calendula. Calendula I'm going to let reseed. I didn't get too many yet so far this year, so we're going to let that reseed. We'll get another crop of that before the fall. This is Santolina, otherwise known as lavender cotton. That bush never did get cut back. I cut some of it, but not all of it. It needs to be totally cut out. Nasturtiums are looking good. These ones here aren't quite flowering yet, but there are some in the yard that are flowering. We have oregano in bloom. It inserted itself in the middle of the coreopsis, so that's why it looks weird. It's not oregano leaves, it's oregano flowers. We have a celery that is going to seed. These guys aren't happy because there's too much sawdust. It's taking the nitrogen away from the tomato plant. Asparagus going to seed. Tomatoes around the apple tree, and potatoes. Potatoes are in the bags. Tomatoes are in rows on either side. Got some volunteer sunflowers. And this is celery going to seed. More tomatoes. Tomatoes. Put in some cantaloupe here. And to protect the cantaloupe from bugs, I planted some more nasturtiums, but like I said, the sawdust isn't helping these guys any. This needs to be thinned. Skirt is not supposed to be in the middle of my path either. Here you can see we're harvesting black currants. The finches got most of the red currants this year. On my trip, I was able to pick up some of my grandmother's rhubarb, which is a different variety than the stuff that I'm growing, and all of it seems to have survived. I've got it planted, and it's the roots are just getting established, so there's no leaves yet. But in this general area next year, there should be a nice healthy rhubarb plant. I've got some annuals in here, like cabbage. They won't be here next year. A lot of my fennel ended up bolting because of the temperature. The leeks from last year are going to seed, and the honeybees happen to love these. And last year's cabbage went to seed, and the purple finches ate it all. Who knew? This was a sadness that happened this year. All of my Napa cabbage got eaten alive. I don't know if it's cabbage moths or flea beetles or something. I never did get around to the hardware store to pick up anything to spray it with, like BT, which was my original thought to do. Coneflowers are coming into bloom. These guys are carrots from last year. We're going to see if they breed true. I'm going to collect the seed. Most of this section is onions. This section is weeds. In here I have some harvesting to do. I have a lot of colored greens interspersed with rhubarb. The deer don't eat any of those, so that's a good thing. I did put a blueberry in here. We'll see if it survives. Another cabbage, more borage. Those are potatoes. I don't know if they're gonna produce anything or not. Some of them got started really late. So we're gonna wait until fall to harvest everything and see what we have. And if it cools down, we might get a second crop out of them, or maybe the first crop will start to actually grow. And in this area here, I did plant another rhubarb. I'm gonna have to clean up the creeping Charlie again. We got purple sage and lemon balm. Basil is looking good. This is Thai basil. That's an orange tree. The strawberries that I tried out this year did not do as well as I'd hoped. Just don't seem to be very healthy stock, and I can't say why. I made up the soil mix exactly per the recipe, and we got some strawberries, but they're not real happy. Some of the marigolds need to be transplanted. This is my sad plants that didn't get into the ground yet. More basil. And maybe a dianthus. Hard to say. I've got a lot of flowers going on. Let's take a walk in the back. Okay, we're in the back. This is the herb spiral. This is my rhubarb, but I did plant up some of Grandma's rhubarb in this section as well. We'll see if it comes up next year. Anise hyssop is doing phenomenally well under a cherry tree. This is parsley going to seed. More St. John's wort. Somewhere in here I've got a section of basil. And there's another anise hyssop in the middle. These are Siberian bug loss. They're done blooming for the year. Currently, we just finished the harvest. This is a mulberry tree. We just finished the harvest. These are starting to dry up. Black raspberries were small this year because of last year's drought. Also, it was kind of dry in May. And more potatoes down here. I have like 4 or 5 kinds of potatoes kicking around the yard in various places. Tarragon. The hardneck garlic needs to get harvested this week. Already harvested the soft neck, that's gone. That's another skirt bush. This is another potato bed that I made out of a fire ring. I'm really pleased with the beets. I know they have leaf miner, but we're doing pretty good with the beets. Now this particular bed is a mess right now. Apparently it also has carrots going to seed. But it had some pretty good yield of strawberries in here this year. And again, another fennel that went to bolt. Those are horseradish. They make a really good screen in front of the compost to hide it. I didn't expect that. I've got more beets underneath here, but since the deer were coming through, we covered it. Lettuce is starting to bolt. I'm going to be saving some seed. I did get a pretty good sized bed of leeks growing in here. Probably those will be ready maybe March, February, March. This can get covered over the winter. This is a bed that covers nicely with Agribon or plastic. I ended up with 1 zucchini plant out of all of them. The rest of these guys here are volunteers. We don't really know what they are. There was a bird feeder hanging here, and they could be anything. They were something we grew last year and decided not to save seed on. This is my surprise plant. I don't know what it is. It is some kind of cucurbit. I don't know if it's a zucchini or what. No flowers yet. I have Swiss chard in here, and I have nasturtiums in here. Looks like there might be an onion in there. I don't remember planting it, but there might be. These are supposed to be Roma tomatoes, and I'm looking at some of them and wondering if the deer didn't reach over the fence and just chomp that, because that got bit or cut. We have 1 amaranth that was not, it's a volunteer. This has been helping keep the deer out. The deer hate dill. I can't tell you why, they just do. My deer hate dill. Your results may vary. We've been busy picking red raspberries too. There weren't very many on here, but the bushes did get trimmed as we harvested, so that'll be a help for growing for next year. And you can see this is spinach, that's lettuce. I'll be collecting those in a brown paper bag and marking what they are. And the deer have been eating these guys too, so I put up a barricade here. The deer come down from up there, and what I did, I don't know if you can see it, the deer have a hard time with it too, is I put tomato cages across here, and I have one that I can pick up so I can walk through. That seems to be keeping them out of the upper garden. See, we have a nasturtium here. This is an heirloom variety of tomatoes that I have celery in the middle. We have purple beans in here. The chard is pretty much done, and the cucumbers are just getting started. And again, we're under a mulberry tree. Once these guys finish up, we'll trim some of these branches. I want to leave them because if the birds eat those, they're not bothering my plants. Peas are finishing up. We're letting a few go to seed. This is a seed that I've been working on for over 10 years now. Oh, might be even closer to 30. Hard to say. I've been keeping this one a long time. I love this one. This is snow peas. And I haven't seen it available on the open market in a long time. It's an organic heirloom that I started saving when we first moved here. So we moved here in the mid-90s. Okay, let's take a walk around. This is not a spinach plant. It came in the spinach seed. It's actually bok choy, and I'm gonna, if the birds leave me any, I'm gonna save some seed. This section needs to be weeded. I have one Long Island cheese pumpkin growing here amongst the cabbage. And there are some New England pie pumpkin growing in here as well. I have plans for all this collard greens here. This is going to get harvested in the next day or so as the temperature starts to drop. This is another Long Island cheese pumpkin growing here, and it will sprawl over the whole garden. Those potatoes that are in those grow bags look like they need to be harvested, and the garden behind them needs to be weeded. That's a later thing. First thing that has to happen is this rose bush needs to be trimmed back, and I have some designs on those leaves for a dye bath. So that's what's going on in the garden today. Sun's going down and the heat index is starting to drop. So I wish y'all cool thoughts as we get through this heat wave. Take care.